Hello, I'm Robert Hooks, and welcome back to the Urban Roundtable. My guest for this segment is an extraordinary actress who has long been blessed, or cursed, with being one of the most beautiful women in film and television. However, today she's here to talk mainly about her new life as a novelist and her fabulous new book, Freshwater Road, which has the critics singing its praises all over the country. So, what else can I say, and who else can I be talking about but the wonderful, the beautiful, the vivacious Denise Nicholas. Denise, welcome to the Roundtable.
Well, thank you, Robert.
All those wonderful things I said about you.
That was nice.
Absolutely true.
Thank you. That's very kind.
Have you come back down to earth yet? This has been fabulous for you.
It has been. Yeah, I'm down to earth. It's hard work. I sound like Bush. It's hard. It's so hard. It's fun, but it's work. You know, I think I had a fantasy about writing, and it was romanticized. It was based upon reading the biographies of writers or seeing Hollywood versions of writers' lives, and then I started writing, and that fantasy just went right out the window.
When you say it's hard work, you mean after you write the book?
Yeah. I thought
the book
was hard. That was hard enough. Okay, that was good. That was hard. Quiet, home, do your work. When I finished the book, I said, well, the book is finished. I have a publisher, not a big publisher, a small publisher. That's fine, I got a publisher. And then I thought, oh, cool, you know, now I can coast and kind of rest on my laurels if I get any. And I've worked so, it changes. You're not at home anymore. You're not doing that quiet work of research and writing, but you are on the road, and on the road is for young people, and I'm not young.
Well, you're young enough, sweetie. You're young enough. Now, when you say on the road, give us an idea of what you're talking about, because, you know, I know that every time I try to get you on the telephone, you're gone. What do you mean?
I did a book tour. We launched the book in Los Angeles at the end of the summer. Then I went on the road for a month, mostly back east. And then I came back here for a month. And then I started doing, I came back to rest, and then I started doing book events in the local area, up and down California. Right. So book events could be anything from bookstore signings and readings to private parties or book clubs, combinations of book clubs. So I have many, many more of those to do before my year of promotion is up.
It's a year.
Mm-hmm. That's the commitment I made to promote the book, 1 year.
That's amazing. How's the book doing?
Well, it's doing well. It's not doing great, because it is a novel and it is literary fiction, and they don't tend to sell like nonfiction books, or like memoirs are the high-selling books, I guess. So it's doing well. We made the Essence magazine bestseller list.
Well, right on. Well, I read the book. I read the book a long time ago. I probably read the book before anybody else read the book.
You got it hot off the press.
Yes, I did, and I was just absolutely astounded at your vision, your metaphors. I mean, it's just the metaphors especially. I mean, the writing is just so. And I know that you took some classes and you went to some writing, but I mean, you've had it in you. You had to have had it in you, because what you paint, the picture that you paint. We'll talk about the book and what the book is all about in a second. But I was just absolutely astounded at the beautiful pictures.
Oh, thank you.
Of this real funky situation that you were in, and when you write about it, it's like, oh wow, that's gorgeous, that's wonderful.
I think the in setting the story in the place that I set it, which is in southern Mississippi, as opposed to an area of Mississippi that people are more familiar with, for example, the Delta. It gave me, as an artist, an opportunity to paint pictures, exactly what you said, to create through and require the reader to see the landscape through the eyes of the main character as I wanted you to see it.
And you do. So you paint that picture, and we're there. The reader is right there. I couldn't put the book down, and I'm reading it again. I'm in the process of reading it again.
Yeah, does it hold up?
It does.
Oh, good. Oh, good. Okay.
I want you to tell our viewers why you wanted to write this book, what the book is about, and why you wanted to write it. because it deals with a very, very heavy subject and a part of history that is so important for people to know. And I was going to say that the book is probably the best novel that I have ever read on the subject of that time.
Well, the whole story takes place over the course of one summer, the summer of 1964 in Mississippi, which was called Freedom Summer, which was at the very height of the civil rights movement. I wanted to write a novel about it. I didn't really want to write a nonfiction book, because by writing a novel I could take whatever factual memory I had left of my time in the South and shape that into a story that I wanted to write, rather than just point blank just giving my life's experience. Right. So I use my life's experience as a foundation to a degree, but very quickly it takes off and becomes the book takes off and becomes its own story, and the main character becomes a separate individual. So I set the book in a place that I'd never been to when I was in Mississippi, so I could see it. I could learn it as I'm teaching it to you. So I had to do research trips, and I also had to do a lot of research on the civil rights movement, because though I was there, I was working with a theater group, the Free Southern Theater. I was not doing voter registration work, which is what this character does. Although I was privy to it because I was there in those towns where it was going on, I could see it. And I could see the work that young kids from all over the country, black kids and white kids who came into Mississippi that summer, I could see what they were doing. Although my experience as an actress during that time was quite a bit different, because we were itinerant, we were gypsies moving around from city to city. And in the story, the main character, Celeste Tyree, is assigned to a town in southern Mississippi, and she has to stay in that town with a particular woman in a house on Freshwater Road. She has to stay and invest everything that she is as a person in making something change in that town. And what she's there to do is to get some black people in that town registered to vote, and to run a freedom school for the young children in that town, who are of course going to segregated schools. So it's I didn't know really what that experience was. So that was the journey for me as the writer, because in my research I had to go back and read all those books that have been written, nonfiction books that have been written about the civil rights movement, to have a real good idea of what it was like to live day to day, to do the work that they were there to do, and what did that mean. So I learned a lot myself in doing the book.
Now that your main character, Celeste, is her name, is, what is she, 19?
19.
She's 19, and from the time when that book opens and from the time she's on that train and the things that happen to her, you talk about courage. This young girl is so filled with courage. You say sort of kind of based on your life, but I remember when you were down there, the Cheney, Schwerner, Goodman boys that were killed happened during the time of this?
Of the book, yes. And it happened during the time that I was there. There was no way I could write even a fictional account of Freedom Summer without that being, that shadowing the entire story, which indeed it does in this book. And in memory, I call them memory shadows. The Emmett Till case is subtly in the background of this novel, because these things are who we are, and I don't know that you can, unless you're doing science fiction and you're not even on Earth or something, or you're in some different stratosphere, then I think they're there for us to thread through and to use and to create metaphors of and imagery. I don't think they should ever be forgotten.
Well, you chose to use characters in this book, in this story. They had to have been. I know that I'm thinking how you came, the lady that Celeste lives with,
Miss Geneva Owens, Miss Owens.
Miss Owens, what a character. The young girl who, well, I'm going to get into the book, but I want people to really and truly understand that this is an important book, not just a brilliantly written book, but it's an important book. The characters, how'd you come up, I mean, this old lady and the young girls and the families, you met these people, obviously.
No.
I mean, you had to have known.
No, I didn't.
The way you write these characters.
But this is, you got to remember, now there are two characters in the book who really are based upon real true characters. The Shuck character.
I think I knew him.
Most assuredly based on my father. I wouldn't have even tried to write a first book without finding a place for that type of character, because to me he's a kind of black man who is a generation or two ago, but I think the qualities of that generation of that kind of man have been given short shrift, so it's kind of almost like a throwaway, but in the book I wanted to deepen that type of man, the man who lives one foot in the society and one foot out. I wanted to go inside the heart and mind of that kind of man.
Well, you accomplished it. You accomplished that, no question. I happen to have known the man.
You did know him, yes.
And you accomplished that. But I wanted to just to mention that one of the things that fascinated me, and I was at a book. It wasn't a signing. The thing at the E-Bell was
the launch. That was our big launch party. Mm-hmm.
I was at the launching, and I kept hearing these questions about Mississippi, 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 and I finally put my hand up, and I was going to ask a question, except they stopped the questioning when I put my hand up. It was over. The question is, why you deal with two geographical areas in this book. The Mississippi story, which is just heart-wrenching, real, blood and guts, real. And then you deal with Detroit. A lot of people don't know that you've done the juxtaposition of geographical areas. Tell us about Detroit, and I know you're saying that this character is your father.
Right, and to me, he is Detroit. So if there's a metaphor or an image, the two are so tightly knit together in my own mind, it seemed it was an opportunity to show something or to tell something about that city that gave birth to me, and maybe that people didn't know, or to just shine a new light on it, so you could get some kind of a sense of how a city, a blue-collar city that became very black over a period of time, produced such an extraordinary array of artists in music and literature, in all the creative arts. Detroit has been a very fertile ground for us. Not so much lately, but certainly in the years, in the 40s, 50s, and early 60s.
And you capture that in the book, but people, when they talk about your book,
they don't talk about Detroit. No, they don't.
I thought that's one of the most, that to me is one of the fascinating things about how you told the story of Celeste, her family.
And I don't even know what really moved me to do that alternating, and it's not a true alternate because it doesn't go one chapter. No. It's just little chunks of Detroit inserted all through. And one draft of the novel, that wasn't in there. So as I was doing draft after draft, and I would, you add things on as you go through this process because of a particular section of the book, for example, feels thin. There isn't enough undertow, there isn't enough subtext there. Then you have to come up with something to make it have the heft and the weight that you want it to have. So a lot of for example, you were talking about the characters. Labyrinth and Georgie and all these people, these characters were not there at the beginning. They might have come into the story in the third draft.
Oh, wow.
And I lost track of how many drafts I did. So, that's true of the Detroit section. I didn't know that was going to work out that way.
It works so beautifully. You've
interwoven, yes.
those two areas in the story, and you can see and feel what she's feeling when she misses that part of her life, and Shuck doesn't even know she's gone. He doesn't know where she is. It's fascinating. Do you write, when you write, do you write with a word processor, or you work longhand, or how do you do it?
Well, I work both ways. I can, depending on the scene, for example, if I have to dialogue a scene between 2 or 3 characters, I generally will do that on a yellow pad and work out, longhand, and then I'll put it into the computer. There are chunks of this book, put it this way, almost the entire book at one point or another was on a yellow pad. But then once it gets into the computer, I can then do my rewrites and changes on the computer. If a scene falls apart and falls out, then I might have to go back to yellow pad and start from scratch.
Right. The story fascinated me, and it'll fascinate the world, but what really fascinated me when I was at that book launching was when you read a piece of the book. Would you read a piece of the book for us right now?
I'd love to. That's one of my favorite things to do.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful.
I'm going to read I'll read the very opening because it does set the tone and for all that comes afterwards. And this scene takes place when the main character, Celeste Tyree, is on the train. The train has left Memphis. It's into Mississippi. She's never been in the Deep South before. She's heard stories, as all black people all over the country have always heard horror stories about Mississippi. She also remembers the Emmett Till case because everybody knew about the Emmett Till case. And so she has one part of her which is this kind of young girl courage. The other part is a horrible and deepening fear. Yeah. Out of Memphis, with night drawing up thick to the windows, Celeste felt the air pressing down. She dressed in a gabardine jumper and a long-sleeve blouse against the lingering cool of a June Ann Arbor morning. Now her clothes weighed on her like a damp blanket. She closed her eyes. Before sunset, the trees had segued to a double-dyed richness of color, and the loamy soil had turned blood rust. Soft-talking voices of the train passengers mutated from the flat sing-song of the Midwest to the sloping drawls of the Deep South. She shuddered, remembering a life she'd never lived, then laughed at the irony. Every Negro in America had a nightmare of Mississippi, of dying in the clutches of a hatred so deep it spoke in tongues.
That's gorgeous. And that is a teaser for sure. That young girl and what she goes through in that summer. And I mean, the horrific stuff that happens. And then there's a kind of a love story there. Talk a little bit about Celeste and when she has a break of sorts and she meets.
Well, she's very isolated in this town of Pineyville, and in the house that she's staying in, Miss Owen's house, there's no radio, there's no television. The only book is a Bible. So she is, in a way, isolated and it's not just the isolation of the oppression of the South, of white against black at that point in our history. It is also the oppression against women, which in certain very rural and conservative areas was even more harsh at that time than in the cities. And here's a girl who's coming from a big city or a big time campus where things are liberating and people are beginning to be free.
She's from Ann Arbor.
Yeah, she goes to school in Ann Arbor, which is where I went to school. And then she gets in this town, which is just, I mean, people are living in teeny tiny little spaces, and there's no way to express anything that she's thinking or feeling. She can't burden the woman who's her host with her thoughts and feelings, and so she's alone. She's really, really alone.
And this woman grows to love her so much. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, she bonds with, it was a rough, kind of a rough beginning. Because, yeah, right. But it was a rough beginning with the civil rights movement honcho, Matt Higgins, who drives her down to Pineyville, and he just lambasts her because he just doesn't think she's a serious person. He thinks she's a silly, cute thing who doesn't have a brain in her head, and so.
And what is she doing here?
What? Yeah. So, I mean, she knows, I think she knows that she has to prove herself, not just to herself, but to those around. She has to prove that she's a substantial and authentic person by being successful at this work. And she doesn't have a clue as to whether she's going to register one person.
A single soul.
A single soul.
And, well, I was going to get ready to say how many people she registered.
I'll let people find that out.
Right, I won't do that.
But she does, I think as a result of her isolation and loneliness, she finds an attraction to a character in the book. And there is one romantic moment which has some backstory. When I first wrote the scene, and I was taking it to my writing workshop, and I'd written this kind of a love scene in the car. Okay, so because there's nowhere else to go. Right. You know, you're out there in the middle of nowhere, and there's not exactly a Ramada Inn down there.
And you ain't going in the bushes.
And you're not. And if there was a Ramada, you weren't going to get in it anyway. So they're in the car on Freshwater Road, parked away. So I wrote this scene, and I'd never written a love scene before. And so I just romanticized it. And I took it into class, and there are a couple of guys in the class, and so I was reading this poetic kind of love scene, and they're just looking at me like, what? And I said, well, then you stop and you get your critique from the 7 or 8 other writers in the class. And so the guys are looking at me, and they said, do you know what it's like to make love in a car? And I thought, well, I really can't remember. So they said, first of all, it would not be pretty. Good. It would be uncomfortable. Your head would be all scrunched over, and your leg would be up here, and something would be hitting on the dashboard, and the door handle would be sticking you in the neck, and your foot might be out the window. I said, oh, God, this sounds horrible. And he said, well, that's what it is. So I took the scene home and took their notes, and rewrote it. So that, and then it gives it more... gives it more feeling to have it more difficult.
I remember that scene very well. No, now, what writer? I mean, I'm reading your book. I'm thinking, is she influenced by? Is it Alice Walker? Is it some writer that
I don't really know yet. I think with one book it's hard to tell. But certainly Janet Fitch, who was my teacher,
wonderful woman. I met her. Yeah,
I would count her as the most influential force. I don't think I can write, Janet could write her ass off, okay? She's like way up there. And I feel honored to have been able to work with her for this book, to bring this book to life. And I guess if there's a writer I want to be like, I want to be like Janet. I would love to be able to write that.
Well, I got that. I got that from when we at the book launching when you talked about it, and I had a chance to say hello to her, and saw what the influence was. Yeah. And she just absolutely loves you. Yeah, but that was the influence.
Yes, absolutely.
Now, it's funny because, everybody knows you as an actress and a wonderful actress. And I said, well, but now this is a whole new life for you. Yes. And we're hoping that people will go out and get Freshwater Road, because I got to tell you, personally, I absolutely loved it, and I'm loving it the second time around. And I have other things to do with my time, but I just had to do it. But what we talked early on, not tonight, but we talked about your next book. And I just want to touch, and you don't have anything else in there to read for me, do you?
If you want me to, I can.
I do, because I was, but not. I want you to answer this question first, and I think we have time for another reading. My producer will. Yeah, we have more time.
Okay.
But what's this next book that you have in your head?
Well, it kind of keeps moving around. I want very much to write a love story between a story of a black man and a black woman that in some way is a doorway into what has happened to us in this country and what that means in terms of our emotional selves. So it isn't so much about the exterior, the vote or the job or the integrated school or things like I really want to write a book of the heart. And I don't exactly know how I'm going to go about it, and I don't, want to...
No, I just wondered. I know that once you write one, and I got to tell you, the Washington Post reviewed your book, and I have not read a review like that. I've never read a review like that.
He really did.
That review was unbelievable, and it's something that you should frame and put on your wall.
I'm framing it. It is at the frame shop right now. Definitely.
Are you serious?
Yes, I am quite serious. I never have done that in my life, and I'm doing that now.
That was, and I've read good reviews of this book. Wonderful reviews all around, but that one.
And it was on the front page of the Washington Post Book World.
So now, what does that feel like? What does it feel like to work so hard, and you're still working, you got a few more months to go on your contract, but you're being rewarded so much.
It was incredible. I was in tears. I was in D.C. when that...
oh, you were?
Yeah, and I was at a girlfriend's house, and I got up early that morning because my publisher had called and said, we think the review is coming out tomorrow, so get your papers. And the publisher's in Chicago. So my friends with whom I was staying had an alarm system on their house. And when I heard the paper hit the driveway, I went straight out the door and it set off the alarm. I set off the alarm. And so then I opened the paper and I'm walking through their house and everybody's still in their pajamas. And I opened it and I saw the book world and I saw Freshwater Road by Denise Nicholas, and there was an illustration right there. And I said, oh, that's interesting. And I looked at it and I said, oh, I think that's my book. It was so surprising to me that they would put it on the front page of the book world. And then I just kind of scanned the paragraphs and I could see that the writer who did the review really loved the book. And then I just started crying and screaming.
Oh, wow.
I woke up everybody and they were all running around, and my friend's husband got us champagne, then we dropped the champagne on the floor. It was one of those just exquisite moments in your work life, when all the things come together and fit together perfectly.
I am so happy for you. I can't begin to tell you how happy I am. I want to ask you something. Now you're writing, you've got the book. Now the story of the Book of the Heart, the story of the heart that you talked about, are you talking contemporary here?
Well, that's a question I'm toying with now. The story that I've started takes place in the 1940s, but I keep saying to myself, why can't you write in a contemporary story? Why do you keep, I'm pulled to historical fiction. I really am.
No, it's your second book, for crying out loud. You got plenty of books in you, girl.
Please. But so I'm going to try. I'm going to try to bring the voice into contemporary. I was talking to a writer mentor of mine on the phone the other night. I was telling her something of what I wanted to accomplish with this, and she said, you have it. I can hear it. You have it. Just get it down. Start getting it down. So we'll see.
Now you're writing now, and you've been writing for many years on that. 5?
5. It took 5 years.
5 years to write that. So you've been writing, and you're getting ready to. You've got this other thing germinating and brewing. Do you ever think you'll act again? Do you want to?
I do. I love it. What I fell out of love with was the business, not the performance part of it. I love it. But the industry itself just became more than I could handle.
Well, it's a good segue for me, because that's what I wanted to kind of touch with you on, the whole idea of the industry and how the industry treats us, treats women who are beautiful light-skinned women as opposed to women who are beautiful dark-skinned women, or women that are not beautiful, or, well, what's beauty? It's not for me. But let's talk about that for a minute. What's your take on where we are? You say the industry. What about the industry?
Well, I'm not sure. I think it's so different for black actors and white actors. I mean, there's a very teeny tiny little group who crash through the glass ceiling of race and sex. Very, very few people get there. So I think I got angrier and angrier, because with whatever talent I had, with whatever background I had, I kept running into walls when it came to my own development as an actress. I couldn't continue to grow as a creative person in the acting profession based upon the industry that I found myself in, because the roles were not ever going to be there, not my lifetime. The kinds of roles I'm talking about are substantial, not necessarily leading roles, but substantial and interesting characters. Mm. So I just said, I'm just spinning my wheels here. Let me find something that I can have a little more control over in terms of the intellectual aspect of it and the creative aspect of it.
So if the role was there,
I'd be there.
You'd be there.
Sure, absolutely. I'd try. I sure try.
Because, I mean, you got it all. A couple of years on your, but you still know. When in my introduction, when I talked about how beautiful you were, and then people can see it, our audiences can see that.
Well, I've lost about a quarter of my memory cells, so you know, I have to take all kinds of herbal remedies to even be front and center today. As I keep worrying about the second book, oh God, oh please give me enough brain cells to do another book.
Would you like to see this Freshwater Road, this incredible novel, adapted for the film?
I would love to see it on screen.
Because that's what I saw when I was reading it, and I told you this after I finished the book. And I finished the book in no time flat because I just couldn't put it down. But being a producer and being in the industry for so long and knowing what hasn't been done, this book is a movie waiting to be done, and I'm just hoping that not somebody that'll just option it and hold on to it, but somebody that'll option it and then do it.
I hope so. I mean, it's a dream. That would be the second level of dream.
Okay, you know. Then it'll happen. Not done with you by a long shot. Let's talk about, let's go back into the book, and let's talk about the period that you were there. Now, you were there in the Free Southern Theater, which is when I met you. I met you right after when you came and started and became a founding member of the company that I had a little bit to do with.
Everything to do with.
And I wanted to just ask you, when you were doing Free Southern Theater, did you ever imagine that you would write about this experience?
Never. I never even.
Never did.
Never ever thought that this would that experience would end up being the foundation for some, you know, never.
Some classic, is that what you were going to say?
Nice way to put
some classic?
No, I never thought that at all.
That's amazing.
There were people in that theater, in the Free Southern Theater, who were writers. I mean, that were really, I thought, you know, great. Could have potentially been great if they had pursued it. And Gil Moses was one of them. He was one of the founders of the Free Southern Theater, and my husband at the time. But actually, this thing about writing really does come from him. Not that I was taking writing classes with him or anything like that, but he was very dedicated to the word. Very dedicated. Now, it was theater. He was, you know, sure. But he was a well-read person and a well-educated person. So he was. I mean, you know, if you couldn't, it was almost like if you couldn't write, he couldn't even stand to look at you. So.
Right. Yeah, I knew the guy, and
it's kind of difficult. God rest his soul.
Yes, he was indeed, and he went too young. He was too young to die. Denise, you may not want to talk about this, but Oprah Winfrey should have your book. Now, what is the deal? Why isn't Oprah Winfrey knocking down your door to get this book?
I have no idea, but we have submitted it. Someone on her staff requested, this was some time ago, requested a copy, and the publisher sent a copy, and I think they made a second request, and another copy was sent, but we haven't heard anything.
Haven't heard anything?
No.
That's hard, because, I mean, I don't read that many novels, and when I read that one, I immediately thought, geez, Denise is going to be on Oprah.
It would have been great. It would be. It could be.
But you submitted it twice.
Yeah, it's been submitted, yeah. It may not be her cup of tea. So.
Maybe not. Maybe not. You know, well, first of all, it's always nice to see you and to sit down and talk to you. And, you know, I love this show because I just talk. and I just want to hear. And I just people say, well, what? I said, no, we'll just sit down and we'll just talk, and we'll talk about anything you want to talk about.
I think it's fabulous.
Yeah. So I think that the book is hopefully it will sell 1 million copies.
Shall I read again, or do we have time?
Oh yeah.
Let's read. I'll read one if I can find it. But you have to.
What?
You have to keep talking while I find the page. Because I can't talk and find page. Oh, here it is. Okay, got it. This is the character Celeste has been in this little place, Spineyville, for a couple of weeks now, and she's gradually she's working with the minister in the AME church, Reverend Singleton. She's getting acclimated to being in southern Mississippi, and she is well aware, as she learned during her orientation, that she's watched and that the whites do not want her or the other white or black volunteers in Mississippi that summer. So this is one night. Gunfire cracked, high-pitched and fast, through the quiet country night. A crash of broken glass. Celeste sat upright in her bed out of a deep, dream-forgotten sleep. No dogs barking. Bits of gravel rock flew from under the wheels of a moving car or truck. Silence. The skinny mutts knew when to hide. She rolled off the bed onto the floor as Margot had taught her to do, tried to get herself under the bed, pushing her suitcase out of the way with her feet, her heart leaping in her chest like a ball being batted furiously against a concrete wall. Everything quiet. Please, God, don't let Mrs. Owens be dead. Don't let them kill us. She reached around for a viable bargain to make with God. Dear Lord, I promise I'll go to New Mexico to see my mother. I'll stay as long as you think I should. I'll do better, Lord. Please, Lord. The second round of bullets flew right through the house as if God had said, not good enough. She heard the ripping sound of lead shattering wood, bullets exploding through this fragile place, not even built strong enough for winter weather. The abrasive smell of burning metal trailed into the open windows, gunpowder, an engine revving, the sliding scream of rubber tires on solid road. Someone's turned onto the two-lane. She wanted to scoot from under the bed to see. Stay put. Engine gunning harder, burning rubber smells perfuming the night. No need to run from us. We don't even have a gun.
Go. That's amazing. These little snippets. Don't have a lot of time left, but I wanted to ask you, this whole controversy about writers juicing up nonfiction works, and you think Oprah might have been thrown a loop with this David Frey thing. What's your take on that?
I think so. I mean, I know that she, when she called into Larry King, I was watching, and she did back him. And I think she's so invested, and her company in the people, so invested in him, and had done so much for his success, that she said the positive thing. She put her positive spin on it, which I think is what she should have done. And I also think she was correct in this. The publisher is the person. The publisher and the writer have an obligation to take care of that before it gets to, and so I think she's in the club. But I think she's so politically and publicly PR savvy that I think it probably has shaken. I would imagine it would shake anybody a bit, and
Yeah, I agree with that. What do you think the writer's responsibility is?
I think his responsibility was to not lie. His responsibility, he's writing a nonfiction book. So I kept sitting there going, well, why didn't he just write a novel? Then he could have just spun the truth. He could have just woven tale. He could have done whatever he wanted to do. He would have all the latitude in the world. But nonfiction memoirs sell.
Yeah.
Harder and faster than novels. He wanted the big buck. So he got the big buck.
He said he tried it as a novel. He said that.
Probably couldn't sell it. He probably couldn't sell it. I have a little bit of personally, my tastes don't run to the victim lit. It doesn't matter to me if it's a memoir or a novel. I don't like victims. Right. I'm so sick of victims. So I don't even read that stuff. I don't. Please, get up. Just get up,
Well, it's funny, but because I'm thinking Oprah this guy's a millionaire, multi-millionaire, because of Oprah.
Sure, sure.
And it's 2 submissions. I'm not going to beat this dead horse, but you know.
No point.
Right.
No point.
Well, listen, I thank you so much. I want to, the readings were great, I reflected back when I was reading those exact same pieces. It's just such a stirring piece of work, and I can't thank you enough for coming and doing the Roundtable with me, your old buddy.
Yes.
And we go back to the Negro Ensemble Company together, which is where we met, and your wonderful work as an actress at the NEC, and then after that, taking off and becoming a movie star and all that. So I knew you win, John.
Yes, you did.
Knew you win.
You knew me when I had to go take voice classes to get the Mississippi drawl out of my voice, and I'm not even from Mississippi.
And a lot of people don't know, probably your first film work was as my wife on NYPD.
Yes, the original NYPD.
Right, right. I have to say that. He said, "Oh, you were on NYPD Blue?"
The original.
The original. The original.
Great show too. That was a great show.
The writer that we were talking about has been sued. You know. What's it, Fry? It's been,
He's being sued by whom? Oh, I didn't know that. No, I didn't think it would be over. You know, based on what, because there's so much money involved, and there's also the issue of what people have come to expect, or what they expect when they pick up a book that says memoir, or a nonfiction book. And I think it's an issue that probably needs to be hammered out, because there is evidently there's confusion. Of course, there's always greed.
Right. Well, I'm in the process of writing my autobiography, my memoir, if you will, and everything is true.
Well, your life has been so interesting. I don't think you have to gild the lily one little bit.
Not a bit. Denise Nicholas, thank you so much for being a part of this roundtable. It's a special edition for me because I'm with you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
Bye.
I told Gene not to move until we all know.
Out of Memphis, with night drawing up thick to the windows, Celeste felt the air pressing down. She dressed in a gabardine jumper and a long-sleeve blouse against the lingering cool of a June Ann Arbor morning. Now her clothes weighed on her like a damp blanket. She closed her eyes. Before sunset, the trees had segued to a double-dyed richness of color, and the loamy soil had turned blood rust. Soft-talking voices of the train passengers mutated from the flat sing-song of the Midwest to the sloping drawls of the Deep South. She shuddered, remembering a life she'd never lived, then laughed at the irony. Every Negro in America had a nightmare of Mississippi, of dying in the clutches of a hatred so deep it spoke in tongues. Gunfire cracked, high-pitched and fast through the quiet country night. A crash of broken glass. Celeste sat upright in her bed out of a deep, dream-forgotten sleep. No dogs barking. Bits of gravel rock flew from under the wheels of a moving car or truck. Silence. The skinny mutts knew when to hide. She rolled off the bed onto the floor as Margot had taught her to do, tried to get herself under the bed, pushing her suitcase out of the way with her feet, her heart leaping in her chest like a ball being batted furiously against a concrete wall. Everything quiet. Please, God, don't let Mrs. Owens be dead. Don't let them kill us. She reached around for a viable bargain to make with God. Dear Lord, I promise I'll go to New Mexico to see my mother. I'll stay as long as you think I should. I'll do better, Lord. Please, Lord. The second round of bullets flew right through the house as if God had said, not good enough. She heard the ripping sound of lead shattering wood, bullets exploding through this fragile place, not even built strong enough for winter weather. The abrasive smell of burning metal trailed into the open windows, gunpowder, an engine revving, the sliding scream of rubber tires on solid road. Someone's turned onto the two-lane. She wanted to scoot from under the bed to see. Stay put. Engine gunning harder, burning rubber smells perfuming the night. No need to run from us. We don't even have a gun.